So I live in Oslo, Norway, and today the sun is shining beautifully. The sky is a sapphire blue, a little bit of clouds in the sky, but overall it is just gorgeous. I've lived here in Oslo for 10 years, actually 10 years this August. So this is kind of an anniversary podcast episode. It's also an anniversary of my having moved here. I moved here from the US, so I was living in Philadelphia, finishing my master's degree, and then I got a job opportunity here in Norway, and it was a great opportunity. It was really important for my career advancement, but I had no idea about anything in Oslo or anything about life in Norway. I had a limited understanding of Norwegian culture, just kind of based on TV programs and things like that, but I mean, as far as like what it was like to live here, I had no clue. The closest thing I had to an understanding of like Norway as it belongs to the larger European continent was kind of visiting Brussels, Belgium, or visiting the UK, or spending a little bit of time in my undergraduate in Italy. That was the closest I'd ever gotten to understanding what life might be like in Norway. So when I first moved here, I remember when I touched down in the airplane and getting off at Gardermoen Airport, and I've butchered that word horribly, so there's that. I still haven't learned how to pronounce the airport name. I remember first arriving here, and it was a little bit of a chilly August day, but the sun was shining and it was beautiful out, and it's like arriving in a home that you have never been to and you have no idea what it's going to be like, and taking the train downtown and getting off in the center of the city and wandering around lost for a little while until I found where I was supposed to go to get to the apartment that we were renting for a very short period of time, and then trying to become acquainted with this city that I was supposed to live in for the next 3 years, and then having to move a few months later and trying to get acquainted with the new neighborhood that I was supposed to live in, and then eventually getting a permanent position here and trying to learn and find ways of loving this place that, even though Norway is very similar in a lot of respects to the United States, culturally, it's not so dissimilar that it would be like moving from the United States to Japan or something like that. There's still enough commonality that you can kind of navigate reasonably well. Even with all of that as a foundation, it took me the better part of 7 years before I ever felt like this was home. Before I ever felt like I belonged here. I always felt like a visitor. I always felt like an other, as a foreigner. And this was not due to any specific thing that I can point at. I was never ostracized in my workplace or in society for being American. I was never discriminated against in any real way. I was never, I was never treated poorly for where I was from. But there was never this sense of love and ownership and belonging that you kind of want and need in a home. Even the place I live in Oslo never felt like home. The neighborhood never felt like home until I'd lived there for 7 years. And I remember when I finally felt like I belonged, like this was my home. It was a day a lot like today, and I was returning from a work trip, and I was walking 2 blocks from my home, right next to a park, and I just got this sense of warmth, this sense of community, this sense of these are my people, not only kind of Norway, not only Oslo, but this neighborhood that I live in. It suddenly became my neighborhood, and Oslo became my city, and Norway became my country in some ways. Now, I'll never fully belong here, mostly owing to the nature of my cultural background, somewhat owing to my very poor speaking ability in Norwegian, and but always owing kind of to not having been brought up in the same sort of cultural environment that a lot of the people who were born and raised here were. But this has become the place that I call home. This is the place now that I long for when I'm away. This is the place I think about whenever I think about comfort and about happiness and about the place that I feel like I belong. And that's not to say that it's necessarily bound to this geography. It's not to say that it's even bound to the people or the institutions or the places in which I live. It's just to say that I found a way of opening myself up to the place that I live to call it that, to call it a home. And it really, to admit that it has changed me and that I have changed it in some small respect. I think that's what it is to call it a home for me. So the takeaway is that places can absolutely grow on you. You might have moved to a new place, maybe you've even been living in that place for a few years and may not feel like you belong quite yet. That's okay. Give it some time. See how you can grow to accept it, and see how it can grow to accept you. And you may find yourself in a home that you didn't even realize you had. And my call to action is kind of to build on that, and that is to simply ask you to reflect on, when did your home become your home? Has it been your home since a childhood? Has it been your home since yesterday? When did your home become your home?